Hello, New Orleans. You're listening to the Sports Coma, your new #1 podcast on everything Saints, Pelicans, and a lot more. And now, here's your host, Big Q and the guys.
How you making out, America? This Big Q. You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, covering Saints, camp news, Pelicans, moves as well, and a lot more. But for today's show, we're going to be talking about the Saints camp news and what's really going on in camp right now. And I must say, man, a lot of these young guys are looking real good, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm really impressed. I'm really enthused for the upcoming season. But we got two of our guys that's coming in here, DC and Big Boy. How y'all doing tonight, fellas?
What you say there, Q? Hanging in there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad y'all with us tonight, brothers. We got a full slate on our 60-minute podcast. We're going to be talking a lot of good topics dealing with the Saints today. Today, Sean Payton, fellas, singled out a few guys, man, said they were really making plays. Undrafted college free agent Jack Allen, the big center who could play a little guard from Michigan State, the All-American. We got two of them. Jack Allen from Michigan State and Landon Turner from North Carolina. A lot of people remembered both those guys, those All-American players signed with the Saints, and we're expecting big things from both those guys. Sean Payton also gave a big thumbs up to David Onyemata, the big old defensive tackle from Manitoba. He was a guy that they really showed up at first. At first, a lot of people thought he was going to be raw, that he wasn't going to contribute. That's what I was reading online. But Bill Johnson, the defensive line coach, really sought Sean Payton to sign this man because he really felt that this guy could be to help contribute to this team this year. And man, he's definitely a guy that's really bringing strength and that bullheadedness to that defensive line. And I'm encouraged, man, because last year we just got walked through on the defensive line. So let me ask y'all fellas this to chime y'all in. Who in particular did you guys, based on y'all observations and what y'all been paying attention to, give me a couple of guys that y'all see that are really making impressions on you personally. Go ahead, DC, you start us first.
I would have to say the guy that's making an impression on me personally the most is Michael Thomas. I didn't expect him to come out and be as good and as polished as he is, man. The guy, everybody's taking notice. And another little guy I'm really interested in trying to see more of, but I've been hearing a lot about, is another receiver / special team named Tommy Lee. He's 5'7". I'm 5'7". So I'm like, wow, one of us, we out there. Dude's real quick, shifty. He can catch, he can run. It's almost like another Brandon Cooks, but maybe not as good.
Right.
And on the defensive end, who's been catching my eyes, today, TJ Williams, man.
Yes.
He got out there and he ran with the first teamers because Keenan Lewis was sidelined.
Right.
And he got a pick on Drew Brees, man.
Sure did.
Like, wow, that's
did.
pretty good. He says he feels comfortable. He's had time to sit. He knows the defense. I'm really intrigued to see what this young guy can do.
Yeah, I agree with you. PJ Williams to me, man, was the major out of the two. Like I said, the Saints' progress gonna be determined in part by these two draft classes. Last year's big draft class and to this year's draft class. Portions of last year's draft class didn't actually contribute. P.J. Williams and Davis Tull, both of those guys, especially in particular, P.J. Williams was a guy that we thought when they took him with the third round pick, that he was going to be a major contributor in the secondary. He went down with an injury early in camp, and that just kind of gave Damian Swine, who balled out of control. I really liked how Swine played until he had those concussion injuries. But Big Boy, what's your take on it? Who you like? What guys you like so far in camp?
On the defensive side, I'm still crazy about Tyler Davidson. He's pushing that pocket like we've been needing to be done. And I also have my eye on Eric Harrison. You know, he's doing pretty good at the safety position.
Good call, Big Boy. Eric Harris, man, that's a real good one. Yeah, I like Eric Harris, man. Big safety. That's Devin Bro's partner out of the CFL. Man,
Right.
I say I'm really impressed with that kid, man. I really think he's gonna bring a different dimension to that safety position.
I think so too.
Look, we seen some other things that went on today as well. The acquisition of John Kuhn. I know you, Kuhn, the big fullback
There you go.
out of Green Bay. You know, and I mean, when I think about John Kuhn, man, that's a full-breeded NFL type fullback, man. Just a bull. He just opened a hole where there's no hole there. Of course, we have our own little fullback that been with the team, Johnson. He had an injury of some sort. It must have been serious enough for them to bring in John Cool, a 10-year veteran out of Green Bay. Let me ask you guys this. We're going to start with you, DC. What do you think? I personally didn't think that the Saints would carry a fullback going into the season, but it appears like Sean Payton might be serious about running that ball if he brings John Cool in here. What you think about that?
Oh yeah, I think he definitely about running that rock. I thought he maybe would do it a little different with all these gadget receivers we got, but if we're gonna be in that I formation, maybe some pistol. John Kuhn is definitely a fullback you want to have in front of your run back.
No doubt.
Run that ball, and it doesn't help that he can run a little bit and also catch the ball really good out of the backfield. Green Bay and us, we play a lot similar, so I think he's gonna fit in with our system.
That's true. He is. That's a very. He does catch the ball pretty well for a guy his size at the fullback position out the backfield. I remember many days people hated to tackle that big sucker coming at him. Big boy, what's your take on John Kuhn?
I think that's a big good move with Kuhn, and I think the receiving core gonna help the running game. With the receiving core on fire, they're gonna open up the running game for us. So yeah, I think that's a great big move with adding him to the mix.
Right. Well, yeah, he's. I think that's an intriguing, man. I just really like the out the box thinking Sean Payton's had. The little gadget plays from going east to west as opposed to maybe the quickest direction you need to go is straight ahead, north to south. And you got downhill runners like Mark Ingram and Hightower. You might want to use those guys with Kuhn running in front of them. I can only imagine, man. But let me ask you guys this, kind of moving on to the defensive line. Kasim Edibali, man, he was starting with the first teamers today. He looked really good out there, I have to say. At first, I think Gawachim probably had to step on him. I really still do think that Gawachim is probably the favorite, even though Kasim Edibali is really playing like he usually do. He's a guy that leaves it all on the field. He plays. He can run. He can blitz. He can cover the run. But for whatever reason, I just got the feel that that I think Sean Payton is leaning toward Gawachim. What's y'all take on that left end position? Who do you think is in the lead? Start with you, big boy.
I think Gawachim is still in the lead because of the speed. I think he's a little more quicker than Edibali, but I'm not knocking him. It's still up for grabs right now, but Gawachim, I think, has just got the little edge in my eyesight so far.
Okay, that's a good call.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and play devil's advocate here, and I'm gonna say it seemed me to Bali because for the simple fact of one thing that Washington didn't do, Washington didn't get 5.5 sacks last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he can just outplay him based on camps. I think it's gonna spill over all the way into preseason, but as of right now, I think it seems me to Bali still will have the leg up, so to speak, on Guacham because of experience in games.
Well, I see what you're saying. Well, he definitely Edibali been here a lot longer, and like I said, I like he one of my favorite hard players. Now, like Big Boy, I love Tyler Davison. I really like Tyler Davison too. But I like Kasim Edibali, man. He just he just came from out of nowhere. He stuck on the team as special teams. He worked his way up into the linebacker position, and I think he's fighting right now. I think it's his third year here to actually try to solidify that starting job. And and I like his motive, but I would have to agree and say that he probably is. I would have to say that the Saints probably is leaning toward to watch him a little bit more than anybody else. Because they just like they're in love with his measurables. He's 6'5", he's 265 pounds. He can rush it. Now he played in limited minutes. He didn't get 5 sacks like Edibali did, but he got in limited action 2.5 sacks last year. And in camp this year, and then in this camp this year, he's really been getting after the quarterback. Among other guys, he's not the only one, but he's really brought pressure to Drew Brees. We're gonna revisiting the defensive back position, the DBs, cornerbacks and safeties. Man, I gotta say that I've not known from previous camps to see so many interceptions by these young guys on Drew Brees this early. I mean, what's y'all take on that? DC, we're gonna start with you, man. What's your take on these ball hawking young cornerbacks and safeties picking Drew Brees and batting the ball down? I mean, Drew Brees usually toys with the defense. This year, not so much. They've been, in many cases, winning a lot of the battles with the offense, man. I mean, what's y'all take on that?
Well, I think it's a beautiful thing, man, and I think it's the defense reaping the benefits of finally having a presence on the defensive line. For a long time, I think our cornerbacks and our safeties have gotten extremely bad raps. Maybe they didn't play up to their full capabilities, but a lot of times, I mean, you can only do so much without pressure. And in practice today, the defense recorded 7 sacks. There was a period in practice where they went 4 straight times getting sacks. I don't believe they got any sacks on Drew Brees, but they definitely put him under pressure. So I think that contributed. They couldn't get him down, but they got him to turn the ball over. So, I think they're reaping the benefits of the pressure of that line. And they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I believe they would have been able to do the same last year when they had no pressure. So that's my take on that.
Big boy, what you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with him 100%. We talked about that a while back before me and you, and I always thought it started up front, If you can get pressure up front, then that gives your secondary a chance to make plays. And I believe a lot of young guys, they're hungry. We had a bad ranking defense, like ranked 31st, and I think they have to prove something this year, And they showing it. They really showing it in camp this year. They're doing better than the offense for a change. The offense usually dominate the defense, but it's a different story this year.
Yeah, it really is, man. I have to say, man, I mean, but this year, a lot alone from previous years, it's always been a deficit in terms of the defense. We've always had athletes or speedsters, more talent on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that's geared toward the fact that the head coach, the team usually takes on the identity of the head coach. So if the head coach is a guy that like to sling the sucker around, then the team will usually mimic or see that. Like you have a guy in Carolina, Coach Ryan Riviera, his team, where Riviera comes from, the Chicago Bears, with that mean, grudgy defense, and you can see his team got a mean, grudgy defense. So, like I said, it usually takes on the identity of the head coach. And I think for the first time in a while, maybe, since the Super Bowl year, that Sean Payton actually really seriously focusing on adding talent. The last 2 drafts are keen examples of that, drafting more defensive players than offensive players, bringing in signing sturdy defensive players to add to them, the Nick Fairley move, among others that we talked about previously. I just think this year, and one of my favorite moves was James Laurinaitis, 300. I think this dude is one of the dudes, man, that's really bringing brains to this defense, something that they lacked since Jonathan Vilma was here. So, but yeah, that's my take on it. And I think that's really going to help them go levels. And even Drew Brees had to make mention of that, man, how the defense is reacting. They just seem to know where to be to stop and become a major irritant. But we'll talk more about James Laurinaitis and the other key acquisitions of the defense, among others. One of our fan favorites, Lance Moe, signed with the Atlanta Falcons. When we hate that when a former Saint jumps ship and goes sign with the rival Falcons. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the special teams. And we'll talk about a little bit more on the other side of the break. You rapping with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. We'll be back in a little bit.
When winter is gone, so spring on over to We've Got It, your low-price, high-class leader. That's right, come in now and take advantage of our everyday bundle deals on any 3 bundles. 12 to 16 inches, $130. 18 to 22 inches, $155. And 24 to 30 inches, $185. We've Got It. 495 Voters Road in Slidell. 985-445-1400. That's 985-445-1400.
I'm the flyest in the world. I'm the flyest in the world. I'm the flyest in the world. Who you know that's better than me? Nobody.
Be the playmaker. Madden NFL 16. Game not yet rated.
Hey, I'm Paul, and I used to ask if you could hear me now with Verizon. Not anymore. I'm with Sprint now, because guess what? It's 2016 and every network is great. In fact, Sprint's reliability is now within 1% of Verizon. And Sprint saves you 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile rates. So I switched to Sprint, and millions more have too. Can you hear that?
Don't let a 1% difference cost you twice as much. Switch to Sprint today.
What up, America? This Big Q from the Sports Coma, letting you know that you can follow us and the guys on Facebook, All Saints and Pelican fans, also on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, the Sports Coma. You can also download our podcast at podbean.com. So check us out for all the intense and entertainment talk on the Saints, the Pels, and a hell of a lot more. Only at the Sports Coma, you heard me?
Get ready, New Orleans. It's time for the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, telling you everything you need to know about the Saints, Pelicans, and a whole lot more.
I ain't gonna say it no more.
Oh yeah, you back with the Sports Coma. Big Q and the guys. We still rapping Saints going into our second segment. We're talking about Sean Payton and the identity of the team. And finally take real seriousness to address the defensive side of the ball. Big boy, what's your take on that? What'd you think about Sean Payton's decision to bring in Dennis Green after having Rob Ryan here for a couple years and all that dysfunction that was happening with the Saints behind Rob Ryan? He wants to run a 3-4, but they running a 4-3, players out of positions, angry looks on the sideline, fussing all up in the sideline and all this foolishness. He finally decided to kind of clean house, bringing Dennis Allen, a different personality. And finally, looks like he getting the personnel needed to run the type of defense that can be competitive with one of the NFL's top offense. What's your take on that, big boy? And then DC, you can follow him up.
I think that was an excellent move because we had Dennis Allen here once before, and he did a great job with us. And he's familiar with our system. And the guys that he's bringing in, like Craig Robinson, that helps the defense because he can play multi-roles on the linebacker side, you know. So
right.
He's already experienced in what we're trying to do. So it should be a much easier transaction for him by him being here once before.
Go ahead, DC.
Yeah, I think Sean Payton, with this guy, it's all about chemistry, man. They changed assistants and scouts, I think up to 7 different assistants and scouts last year. And we got rid of Rob Ryan and just a long list of trying out defensive coordinators. I think he needs a guy that resonates with him. And Dennis Allen seems to be that type of guy, man. They have a similar personality. They both seem like he's laid back, cool guy, kind of private, but wild on the private side. And They take care of business and party later. So Rob Ryan, I want to party all the time. At least that was exception. And with the change in chemistry with the people around him and actually being able to communicate and having chemistry with his defensive coordinator, I think they collaborated and picked up some real good young talent, man. I think all this chemistry is going to turn into 5 or more wins this season, maybe.
Well, you know what? I tend to agree with you. If we'd had some of this last year, maybe particular with Daniel Ellerbe. I seen a stat where the Saints was 6-2, I believe it was, where Daniel Ellerbe was healthy. And
it was 4-2.
Was it 4-2? Okay,
4-2.
So it's a stat saying 4-2 when he was healthy. Now, what made the difference? I think part of that was the fact that he could cover the tight end. And he can get to he added a certain athleticism to the defense that it lacked. And this year it seems to be different. It seems that they've been adding more athletes to the defensive side of the ball to compete with the offense. And to be honest with you, I'm real happy that Daniel Ellerbe, for the first time since he's been in New Orleans, he's taken 2 pay cuts to stay here. And he obviously likes it down here. We like Daniel Ellerbe. We just want you to be healthy. I like the addition of Craig Robertson as an insurance policy. Just in case Daniel Ellerbe is not healthy. And, of course, we talked about Stephon Anthony. James Laurinaitis, to me, might not be as athletic, probably our least athletic linebacker that we have. But in terms of brains, I'm thinking we done talked about this before. He's very cerebral. He's a guy that didn't miss many games, if any. He had one of the NFL's stiffest defense for several years. I mean, when the Saints would go up there to play the Rams, man, the Rams would run them out the place. I don't think they beat the Rams in the last 3 or 4 meetings. So, I mean, to me, James Laurinaitis is a guy that knows how to check into a blitz or check out of a blitz and drop into coverage. He knows how to get those guys all lined up. And I think that's going to make a major impact on the defense, especially in the maturation process of Stephon Anthony, because when James Laurinaitis, I think he's on a 3-year deal here, or 4-year deal. But once his time is up, I think they'll slide Stephon Anthony to the middle linebacker, and what a hell of a mentor to have in James Laurinaitis, DC.
I couldn't hear you, man. I'm having a little interference over there.
What's your take on Laurinaitis as a leader with this young up and coming defense?
Oh, I think that's a great move, man. Like, I can't see a better fit, and then it also resonates with Nick Fairley, because as you know, if you have a guy that comes from a different team, you want to put him around somebody he's comfortable with. Who better to be a signal caller than James Laurinaitis? So we basically got 2 of St. Louis's better players, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe they got some young guys that felt they didn't need them anymore. But I think they'll be very coveted additions on our team. James Laurinaitis is a smart player, and he's not very athletic. But him not being very athletic, and he had over 100 something tackles, maybe 3 or 4 seasons like that.
Right.
This guy has to be pretty smart to be
right. Well,
in the right place.
That's the part of his game. Is he a very cerebral player, a tough guy, road warrior type of dude. No pun on his father. But that's the terrific thing I really like about James Laurinaitis, that he'll get you lined up right. He'll teach you the game. And I really like his addition. I think a lot of people not talking about that, but I think that's probably one of the biggest and positive acquisitions that the Saints defense could have had, is to add him in the center part. What'd you think about that, big boy, the addition to James Laurinaitis and his match, what he'll be able to do to some of these young players around him? You know, and even some of our older veterans like a John Jenkins, who don't know what the hell they're doing at times. Maybe his appearance could really help get these guys together. What you think?
Yeah, y'all hit the hammer on the head. I agree with you. He's a top middle linebacker, and he'll get you lined up where you need to be. You know, and he is experienced. It's proven. He did it in St. Louis, and I know he'll do a well job for here. You know.
Right, I agree with you.
I agree with everything y'all say on that, you know?
Yeah, I like Laurinaitis as much as you like Tyler Davison. But let's talk a little free agency news, ex-free agent news, ex-Saint news, actually. What's your take on Lance Moore joining the hated, dreadful Atlanta Falcons. What y'all guys take on that? What you think about that?
Man, I think it's a sucker move, man. It's kind of trade. But I like Lance Moore when he was here, and I watched him when he went to Pittsburgh, and I seen absolutely nothing. Yes. He didn't do anything in Pittsburgh, so the guy's gotta get a check, man. So I guess he's over there trying to spill secrets about the thing.
Won't work. Big boy, what you think on that?
Yeah, I kind of agree with him. Like you said, but Lance Moore been in the league 11, 12 years, and he's just like anybody else. His performance is starting to diminish, you know?
Right.
I guess, like, Father Time is starting to catch up with him. They were showing his stats when he was with Pittsburgh and Detroit, and his numbers are steady going down and down. So
right. Well,
I don't think we got too much to worry about with Lance Moore.
Well, I agree with you, but I think Lance Moore. You have as much to worry about Lance Moore as you got to worry about the guy that bring him Gatorade, man. I don't think we ain't gonna have much of an issue, bro, with Lance Moore in that capacity. But let's talk special teams, fellas. We haven't talked special teams yet. Very important. You know, we had a couple games, few more than a couple games last year where it came down to a field goal here or there. We got two guys, man, Kai Forbath and Connor Barth. Barth, the guy that came over from Tampa Bay when they signed, when they went and got that young kicker out of Florida State with, I believe, the second-round draft pick this year. Kai Forbath looking pretty good. He hadn't missed a kick at all in training camp. He's perfect. Barth missed a couple, but today they were perfect kicking. The slight edge is going to Forbath from what I'm looking at. It's a close call, but unlike last year's kicking battle where you had two unproven guys fighting for the spot, now this year you have two veteran guys, and Kai Forbath kicked for us last year. I wasn't particularly impressed with him. Connor Barth, I know Connor Barth played for Tampa. He played pretty sturdy for Tampa Bay for many years before they got this phenomenal kid out of Florida State. What's your take on the kicker battle in camp? We're going to start with you, big boy. What's your take on that?
I agree with what you said. I can't really comment too much on the kicking situation because I really didn't focus too much on the kicking situation. Because so much else was going on with the defensive linemen and the linebackers. I've been mostly concentrating on that, so I can't really give you too much info on the kicking situation right now.
Okay, what about you, DC? What you got?
Well, I feel similar. I don't really know too much about the kicking situation because ever since Sean Payton got here, our kickers just been like a carousel, man. It's like, we switch kickers in the middle of the season. We have it's hard to keep up with him. And we get rid of him. It's crazy, man. But they have a game called football, and there's not a lot of kicking goes on anymore. And they're trying to take the kickoff out of the game. I really didn't pay much attention to the kickers because I know as soon as they miss the kick in the wrong situation, the way our coach is, they just gonna cut them anyway.
Well, that's the take on a lot of things. I know the kicker position right now. People don't really care too much about it until when the regular season comes and it's a close game and you need that guy to go in there and to win the game for you. And I think that's when we kind of switch our minds on the kicker situation. Like I said,
you can't really judge a kicker until they have pressure on them anyway. That's when you see they
that's
really
true.
are. So
But you got both.
You can't really look at a kicker in the preseason or training. Like you're supposed to make it with no pressure, right?
Well, you got two veteran guys that's been proven to play in the NFL. They played in the NFL multiple years for different teams. So you know, like you said, it'll come down to a situation of who does the coach favor more than others, possibly. Like I said, it's not a very important position in terms in the preseason. It's more so when the time.
Is it a real football position?
As real as the punters. As real as the punter. But I tell you what, we go.
I'm glad you asked me because I didn't even know their names until y'all said it.
Trust me, you'll get a chance to follow up. But we gonna talk about more. We're gonna switch gears and we're gonna talk about some Sean Payton moves, a few other things on the Saints defense when we come back.
Nah, man, I'm not retiring.
I'll still break that old man's ankles.
I'm still gonna knock down turnaround jumpers all day.
That ain't changing.
Man, I drop threes on him all night long.
All night.
All night.
I'll drain threes on you all night.
Man, I dropped 82 on you.
I've been Kobe for like 14 years.
I've been him for 16 years.
I won like 15 championships.
I've been Kobe for as long as I can remember.
Dude, you're 8. Nah, man, I'm not retiring.
I hate Kobe Bryant.
I love that Mamba face.
I hate that Mamba face. I'll dunk on fools.
I'll still hate Kobe Bryant.
I'm still gonna hate him.
He's not done.
This doesn't change a thing.
I am Kobe.
I am Kobe.
I am Kobe Bryant.
I'll still be Kobe Bryant.
Product not yet rated.
The 6, Raptors, Diamond, Key, New Ride, Old Ride, Bad Times, Good Times, Young Money, New Money, OVO, 29, 29, 29, Best I Ever Had, Worst Behavior, Old Crib, New Crib, October, Sound, Festival, Album Time Again, or Acting Time Again, My Friend, My Friends, Younger Me, Older Me, Me as Manny, Me as Jimmy, Me as Drake.
What up, America? This Big Q from the Sports Coma, letting you know that you can follow us and the guys on Facebook, All Saints and Pelican fans, also on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, the Sports Coma. You can also download our podcast at podbean.com. So check us out for all the intense and entertainment talk on the Saints, the Pels, and a hell of a lot more. Only at the Sports Coma, you heard me? Oh yeah, welcome back to Sports Coma. Going into our third segment. We talking special teams. We were talking kickers. We're gonna jump. We're gonna move. We're gonna stay within the special team arena, but we're gonna switch and talk about these kick returners, man. A lot of action going on. Marcus Murphy, Tommy Lee Lewis, the undrafted guy out of Northern Illinois, the 5'7" guy. DC, you spoke about him earlier in the podcast. Danny Lasco is a guy that's really cutting loose. He made that big run over Von Bell the other day. And then you got Travis, you throw Travis Cadet in there. So, I mean, it's starting to develop, man, getting a little good this kick returner and punt return battle, man. A lot's going on in the arena. What's your take on some of the, on Marcus Murphy, Travis Cadet, Tommy Lee Lewis, and the rest of those guys? How do you like them?
I'm sorry, man.
I'm sorry. Well, I was just talking about Tommy Lee Lewis is looking like he has the edge to me. But Murphy is looking good as well. They said, I was reading an article on Murphy. He had a good run back in the kicking game, but it's going to be a battle between those two. But look like Tommy Lee Lewis got a little edge as far as I'm concerned right now.
Well, you know, Sean Payton compared Tommy Lee Lewis to David Patton, who's a pretty decent, more than decent special teams player for the Saints, and when he came with the Saints after leaving New England, he was pretty good up there as well. DC, what's your take on the punt returners, kick returners, man? They looking pretty good there, man.
Yeah, man, I'm excited really for the punt returner because how many kickoffs are we really gonna get? But I'm torn in between two guys. Murray, I like Murray, but it's just something, man. He just don't have that it factor for me. So I'm really interested in what David Lasso, I think I'm saying his name right.
Yeah, Daniel Lasso.
Daniel Lasso. They may give him a shot. Tommy Lee, I'm definitely rooting for that guy, man. Undrafted. a short guy like myself. I really hope he makes the team. And he's been doing a lot. So, and then we don't forget, we also have C.J. Spiller, man. C.J. Spiller may be up for a comeback player of the year. Who knows? That guy can definitely return kicks, reminiscent of Reggie Bush if he's healthy.
Well,
I think we got a lot of options at kick return. I'm forgetting, I ain't even mentioned Travis Cadet. He can also return punts and kicks. So.
Well, you know, Marcus Murphy was a guy they picked up last year at the bottom of the draft. Marcus Murphy was a guy they picked up last year at the bottom of the draft. Also, the same thing with this year with Danny Lasco was a 7th-round selection. Took a lot of people by surprise when they took him. A lot of people was upset by that pick. Probably one of the most upset 7th-round picks. Usually you wouldn't think too much of a 7th-round pick. But since we got Marcus Coast and all that,
win the 4th round though, man. 3rd, 4th round. If he didn't get hurt in college.
Right. Yeah, he could have went as high as that. He was pretty good.
He was the MVP of his team last year, and Jared Goff. He was the MVP over Jared Goff, the #1 pick. So. David Lasso is a guy you might want to look out for.
Yeah, you got that. Definitely a guy you keep a look on your radar. How many running backs in particular? Looking at the special team guys, you know, Marcus Murphy, even though he's kick returner, punt returner, his main position is a running back. Tommy Lee is a wide receiver. Travaris is a running back, and of course, you know, Daniel Lasco carries the running back title. How many spots do the Saints keep as far as the running back goes on the active roster, in your opinion, DC?
5. We've kept 5 running backs ever since
Will that trend will continue this year?
I believe so.
Give me your 5. Who do you think?
Somebody might be the odd man looking out, or they might have to hit the practice squad.
In your opinion,
I see 5 running backs.
Okay.
5 running backs. We always carry.
You agree with that, big boy? 5 running backs?
Yeah.
Okay, give me your 5 running back. Who do you think, in your opinion, in your humble opinion, you think will be those 5 running backs to carry this year?
Mark Ingram, Tim Hightower, C.J. Spiller, Murphy, and the guy we just talking about,
Lasco.
Yeah.
What'd you say, DC?
I got the same lineup.
Okay.
Travis Cadet, man, I guess he's just an insurance policy. I really don't see anything there. He's serviceable. I like the other guys, though.
Well, you know, Travis Cadet, Swade was on the other night, and he was talking about Travis Cadet, and he made a comment that he thought he put Travis Cadet on the corner so BFI could pick him up. But some kind of way he found his way back to the to the training camp. So, I mean, he didn't too much care about the Travis Cadet. He's not impressed with Travis Cadet. Although I do think I do agree with you. I think they have a pretty solid group of running backs, and I think they usually keep as many as those because some of these backs that we have injury history. Mark Ingram, I don't. You know, he runs hard and he tends to get hurt. Tim Hightower's been a guy that rehabbed his career, coming off playing for Arizona where he was hurt. You know, so C.J. Spiller, we know what it is about C.J. Spiller. He's been hurt for the last 3 years or so. So, you know, injuries play a major factor in that running back situation. And maybe that's why I think in part they keep so many as insurance policies. Because, I mean, I just see we got that injury plague label on some of these running backs. What you think?
Yeah, man, that's been pretty much another thing with the Sean Payton era, man. When you look at it from 06 all the way to now, we always had injuries at running back. Isn't that crazy? Our wide receivers stay healthy, and we throw for 4,000, 5,000 yards. We run for another 1,000 or 1,500 yards, and all these guys are always hurt. So it's definitely something that they need to do because we had Reggie Bush, who was injury prone. I guess could you put the same label on Mark Ingram? Also injury prone?
We had Corey Robinson also was, not Corey Robinson, but Robinson was also injury prone.
Darren Sproles?
Sproles,
a bunch of injuries.
Yep.
Tim Hightower was set out of the league 3 years behind the injury.
Right.
Running backs get beat up, man.
Well, it's kind of odd, being that the Saints is not known for being a running team, but we are known to surprise you. I mean, we know that our game is not to establish the run. Our game is to come out and build a rhythm where the wide receivers move the ball, and then the running game gets kind of involved. That's not traditionally how some of a guy like Bill Cowell will love to do. Of course, he's a run first defensive stop the run guy, and traditionally, I think some of those teams that perform that way, they usually have real good success in taking and punishing, imposing their will on a team via the running game, then working a pass off the run. That's when that play action and all that get to going for you. Then you got them all turned around. And then stopping the run and turn them into a one-dimensional team. I think the Saints, man, like I said, kind of jumping on the defensive side of the ball now, moving from the special teams into the defensive realm. Let's analyze the running game. I know we spoke about this earlier, building the defense up the center of the defense. But looking at that, what you guys take on the Saints in building the interior defense, adding these tackles, adding these safeties? In your opinion, I know it's just on paper, and we seeing what we seeing in camp as observers. But in your opinion, based upon what we're looking at, will we be able to stop the run effective enough to be a top 10 or top 15 team? Could we make teams one-dimensional? Honestly, go ahead, big boy.
I think so, because with the addition of Sheldon Rankins, you got Tyler Davidson playing lights out, and then you got Nick Fairley. I think we ought to be able to stop the run this year. I think we're going to do a much better job. As far as being a top 10, top 15, it's kind of iffy, because of the defensive indecision. We got to see what we got on the other side of Cam Jordan. But, yeah, I think we ought to be able to stop the run. I'm looking for big things that happen with these newcomer guys we got.
DC?
I think the run game probably uniquely will tie directly to the pressure game on the quarterback, because we're known to be a team that gives up a lot of points and just throw all over our heads. So obviously teams are going to go at our throat. So if we can get pressure on the quarterback, that will eliminate the draw. They will have to run. And if we shut them down running, now they'll be completely confused, and that can transition and go over to what you said about being one-dimensional. So I think it'll tie it back into our defensive line and the improvements we made at D-tackle. Some of the guys that we already have on our team that's probably going to work themselves into the rotation, such as David Stahl. And guess what, you guys? Sean Jenkins plays good against the run. So even when he's on the field, we have a shot at stopping the run.
Yeah.
So I think we'll fare pretty good against the run, and tying into our pressure. If we get enough pressure on the quarterback and get some sacks this year, I think we could most definitely be top 10 and slowing down the run.
Well, I'm not just being a overly optimistic Saints fan. I think me, you, Big Boy, and the rest of the guys, we all observed this team with a vested interest, and we realize that the Saints have been lacking athleticism on the side of the ball for some time. We had some of the guys the big Norman Hands and the Martin Chases and the. If you remember, even lesser guys, we got the Leroy Glovers of the world, and we had lesser guys like Jeff Charleston's that brought that high energy and that mentality to the Saints. I just think this year is different. I like the speed and athleticism of the team. I like the moves that they made in terms of getting the defensive tackles in the center, adding athleticism with the linebackers, backing up some of our injury-plagued players like Jarvis Bird, who just can't seem to get it together with Von Bell and Eric Harris. Like I said, it's just a terrific vibe, and we're gonna keep monitoring them to see if they can keep improving. Before we're gonna switch gears, going into our final segment of the show, we're gonna cover some Pelican talk. We're gonna talk about the NBA All-Star game coming down here in 2017. Charlotte lost out. The city of New Orleans is up next.
That's good for them. They stole our name.
Right. So we're gonna cover that. We're gonna cover the trade rumors of Greg Monroe and Kenneth Fareed on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Hey, this Sway. I'm about to tune you in. I'll cue you into your one-stop online shop for all your health essentials. Your vitamins, your water filters, healing magnetics, hygiene products, healing crystals, and jewelry. For all this and more, just log into theposhlifestyle.com. Once again, that is theposhlifestyle.com.
There's no one road out there. No one surface. No one speed. No one way of driving on each and every road. But there is one car that can conquer them all. The Mercedes-Benz C-Class. 5 driving modes let you customize the steering, shift points, and suspension to fit the mood you're in and the road you're on. The 2016 C-Class, starting at $38,950.
Is it true Ciroc vodka makes the best flavors in the world? Take one sip of the lush wildness of Ciroc Red Berry. One taste of the intense ripeness of Ciroc Peach. Even one drop of the explosive freshness of Ciroc Coconut. And the truth will come to your lips. Ciroc Ultra Premium flavors. One sip is all it takes to taste true perfection. Available in Red Berry, Coconut, and Peach. Ciroc, nothing tastes better than the truth.
The Bud Light party believes in change. That's why Bud Light has a new look. And we want to share it with everyone. From our national parks to our furthest shores, jackpot, to your living room. Look under your seats! Still the same refreshing Bud Light with a new look.
Welcome back to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. Final segment. Last segment, we're gonna be covering the Pelicans. Pelican talk. We're gonna be talking NBA stuff. All-Star game, man. We might be in negotiation with the NBA right now to get the 2017 All-Star game. Big time venue, man. I love it when the All-Star game's down in New Orleans. It just fits right, like a Super Bowl down here. We're a party city, party atmosphere. Why not, man? They should do it every year. 2017 All-Star game, it was big the last time it was down here. Every time it's down here, they do really well. Good revenue for the city of New Orleans. What's y'all guys' take on the potential negotiation of the NBA All-Star game in New Orleans for the 2017 season? What's your take, DC?
I think it's a wonderful thing, man. But us being a tourism-based city, it really helps all of us here and a lot of people that we know in the city who work these jobs get a little overtime, and it's always a wonderful experience. I've attended the All-Star game here before, and it was really amazing, man. So people got that old 24-hour atmosphere here. You get out the All-Star game, you can still go and party. I think that's why they love doing it, and they keep bringing it back because the people who attend the All-Star games probably really love it now.
Right. Good take. What you think about that, big boy? All-Star game 2017, City of New Orleans.
I agree with everything y'all say. Like you said, it brings revenue to the city, and everybody loves to come down here and party in New Orleans. And what I think gives us a net, because everything is so close. I mean, you got the All-Star game right there in the arena, then you got the French Quarters right there, and the hotels are right there. So everything is right in distance, in the range. You ain't got to drive all far, and you can have fun, It's a great deal all the way around,
Well, I agree with you. I think All-Star game it's a pretty good move, and for us, because we fought for it, we didn't get it. But to get it so soon and the way we got it, man, it's amazing. But I think, like I said, the venue is just it's a match made in heaven. The NBA pro basketball in the city of New Orleans with this party atmosphere, I mean, it's awesome. Looking at some actual basketball news besides the business aspect of it, looking at the Pels on some potential moves. We got 2 moves. Big boy, you said earlier, a couple of days ago, you were the first one broke it on the show about Kenneth Faried, the possible deal the Pelicans looking at with Kenneth Faried.
Yeah.
Right. And he got we looking at that. It's more news coming out on that move with Kenneth Faried. He got 3 years left on that contract. He averaging over $12 million a year on his current deal. Looking at the 2 players, kind of comparing the Greg Monroe and the Kenneth Faried situations. Greg Monroe, there was a report out about Greg Monroe possibly being bought out of his contract, which I don't know why. If it's only way I would think they would want, Milwaukee would agree to a buyout of Monroe's remaining 2 years is if I can't foresee you giving up such a valuable piece, even though he might not fit, quote, with your system. He still averaged 15 points and 10 rebounds a game. That's way better than what the hell Amir Asik gave you last year, which was, what, 4? Hell, I mean, that's to me, whoever the GM of that team is, if he cuts that deal, you need to fire him immediately. But looking at those 2 deals, those 2 player situations, and y'all be in depth on that, what's your take on those 2 deals? Would you take Monroe or Kenneth Faried deal? Which one is more appealing to you and why? We're going to start with you, DC.
Man, I like Greg Monroe, man, because, that guy grew up down the street from where I'm from. But at the same time, I think he'd be a lovely addition just being a hometown kid coming back. But I got to say Kenneth Faried, man. He played with Andrew Davis on the USA team, and they were cutting up.
Yes, they were.
And I could just imagine the intensity and the high tempo. He's a big guy, aggressive, he can run. Just be dunks and blocks all day.
Well, what's your take on Monroe being not too much of a good defensive player, always being a step behind in defensive play? Some analysts believe that if Monroe was added to the team, that AD would have to exert more defensive energy to clean up Greg Monroe's mistakes on the defensive end. What's your take on that?
Well, I definitely don't think AD would have to exert more energy than he's already exerting now with a pair of eyes. You can't convince me that Greg Monroe wouldn't be a serious defensive upgrade over a pair of eyes.
Right. Well, the stats don't lie.
Why he would say that?
What's your take, big boy?
I got to agree with DC 100%. For the kind of money Bill Ice is making, anybody would be just about an upgrade over him. So, Greg Monroe would be a good fit, but I have to agree with DC. I would prefer Kenny Fairley over Greg Monroe just because of the chemistry him and AD had in the All-Star games,
Right, I think the like you said, the last year Dale Demps signing Amir Asik, man, to that big $50 million contract for 5 years. He still got $4 million left on that deal, and $10 million, just $10 million, averaging damn near $10 million a year for a player who averaging less than 5 points a game and less than 5 rebounds a game. And that's really bad. And I think that's one of the main things that I was saying about why I felt Dale Demps should have not even made it to this year as a general manager. I thought he should have been canned last year when the team went, but they protected him. They allowed him to, when at the end of the year press conference, they just canceled it and pretended like we're going to address it later, and didn't address it until after they made the draft moves, which was pretty smart. But go ahead. Go ahead, DC.
You got to get Danny Ferry credit on all them moves they made.
So even though some reports believe Dale Demps was the one that went out and sought Danny Ferry and added him as a special assistant So we can't. Should Dell Demps get some credit from these moves? Even though to me, like we talked about it on a previous show, I don't think these moves. We've been watching Dell Demps for 6 years as the Pelicans GM for 6 years, and what I've seen from Dell Demps is he'll make a move for a veteran. He'll overpay a guy to be here. But he's not very smart in making draft decisions and using the draft. Hell, he trades draft picks. Matter of fact, to acquire Amir Asik, he gave up a first-round draft pick to get Amir Asik.
That was that should have cost him his job right there.
Well, the guy,
it was a bad move, but I can't say it should cost him his job. I mean, Dell Demps did do some good things, and he did come in on the tail end of a total mess, man, with the whole Chris Paul thing and all of that. So almost losing the team, the guy had a lot to overcome. And that's maybe why I feel a little sympathetic towards him. But I am not giving him a pass on Amir Asik.
What you think on that, big boy?
I'm not giving him a pass either. So I agree with you. He'll give up a first-round draft pick for a veteran at any time. But I think with the hiring of Danny Terry and getting these solid veteran players like Solomon Hill and Etwan Moore and Terrence Jones, they kind of made up for it, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, we've been watching. Like I said, we've been following Dell Demps 6 years. He's been a GM for the Pelicans, and for 6 years, there's one playoff berth. So 1 out of 5 or 1 in 5 is not a good record. And when he handed that money out to Amir Asik, one of the things I really didn't like, to get personal, was when he fired Monty Williams after Tom Benson gave him his blessings. He said either playoff or bust, and that team responded and gave the city of New Orleans a playoff berth where they got swept by Golden State, but nonetheless, they had a terrific run in the second half, knocking out San Antonio and getting to the playoffs, and then he still fires Monty Williams and brings in Elvin Gentry coming fresh off as a coordinator. As a assistant coach with the Golden State Warriors, who at the time were the champions. And he does this thing, well, this could be UAD and all this kind of stuff. But then when he gets here, Demps gives him the same team Monty Williams has. And I'm saying, how the hell? And I'm like, how the hell are you gonna give him the same team Monty Williams has, and you running the right? You fire Monty Williams, right? You fire Monty Williams. You get Elvin Gentry, Monty Williams' team, and say go make them run faster. And then you sign Amir Asik to $50 million. Then you add Kendrick Perkins. Kendrick Perkins, who's a half-court player. Kendrick Perkins can't run in that type of system. He can't play in that type of system. He doesn't fit in that system. So, that's my take on it, man. But he survived. And that's what I'm saying. The type of moves that I've seen Dell Demps do for these past 6 years don't match the type of decisions, moves that they're making this year. And that's why I kind of lean to giving Danny Ferry a lot of the credit.
What about the fact that we're a small town and it's kind of hard to get veterans to come to smaller town teams, man?
Look at OKC. Use the OKC. But that's the thing. Oklahoma. Look.
Why don't we just go to draft route?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you look at what OKC did, OKC built that team through the draft by making smart decisions. Look at the guys. I'm gonna name you a short list of guys that they drafted in OKC. Kevin Durant, they were in Seattle at the time. The next year, the second year, they moved to OKC. Then, of course, they drafted Russell Westbrook, Sergio Ibaka, James Harden, Reggie Jackson, all these fantastic, Steven Adams, all these guys that they drafted, and they built a team in the middle of the cornfield that's a perennial contender. And we sitting down here in the Big Easy talking about we can't attract veterans because we're a small market team. That's just, to me, I just think that there's a route Dell Demps chose to overpay people for it. And unfortunately, it didn't cost him his job. And thanks to Danny Ferry, he might actually get an extension because I believe this team going to make the playoffs. What's y'all quick take on that? Quick take. Go ahead.
We're going to have to play that 6 and 8 spot in the playoffs, man. I see that now.
What's your take, big boy? Quick take before we wrap it up, brother.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think with the players that we acquired, I think we're 8 seed right now.
All right. Well, once again, man, I appreciate y'all, Big Boy DC, jumping on here tonight, bro, and getting the people. I appreciate the people for tuning in to the Sports Coma. We'll do it again later. Y'all keep in tune with us. Follow us on SoundCloud at the Sports Coma. We got all our social media packages as well. And stay in tune with us, man. You rapping with Big Q. The Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. Y'all have a nice night and stay in tune.
Peace. Y'all stay easy.
Us on the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. Y'all have a good day, and make sure y'all check us out on the podcast, podbean.com, among other things. Big Q and the guys on the Sports Coma. Have a good one.